Thanks for a minute past the hour. We're learning more about what led to charges against an APD officer accused of beating up a homeless man. Those allegations were first reported by a cadet who was responding to a call with Officer Cedric Greer, according to a newly released state police report. Greer, fellow APD officer Jerry Rauch, and that cadet were all called to the Best Choice Motel near Central and Louisiana last month to help a highly intoxicated man. Police say they also found some marijuana on him. State police say Greer then and the cadet stayed with him while Rauch ran to his car. Investigators say when that man looked at the cadet, Greer told him not to and started hitting him in the face and ribs. Greer allegedly asked, "Who's the man?" repeatedly until the man told him, "You're the man." Rauch returned, said he was going to live, and then both officers turned their lapel cameras on. According to state police interviews, the man never posed any kind of threat to the officers. Greer is allowed to remain out of custody on a $5,000 bond. Officer Greer's partner, Officer Rauch, could be in trouble as well. As we mentioned in a criminal complaint, Officer Rauch said he would be going live with his lapel cam, meaning it had not been on the whole time. If true, that's a major violation of department policy.
Not only do we want them to be used, we want them turned on, and it's an accountability measure that we think not only protects the community, but protects the officers themselves when they do the right things.
New mandates requiring the use of those cameras came down with the Department of Justice investigation. APD Chief Gordon Eden has asked for an internal investigation into both officers. Rauch is not facing criminal charges at this point.
We turn now to this. The investigation will continue into what sparked a fire at a southeast Albuquerque home. It happened on Arno Street near Gibson and Broadway around 3 yesterday morning. Crews saw heavy smoke coming from the home when they arrived. Firefighters say a building in the back of the house also caught fire. Both the home and building were vacant, so now investigators have to determine how that fire started.
Albuquerque police are asking for your help today in figuring out who crashed into a woman and then drove off this month. Police say a man was behind the wheel when a blue Jeep Cherokee rolled backward from a Circle K to a 7-Eleven. The Jeep slammed into a woman outside the 7-Eleven at Central and Western Skies. Police say the man likely had the Jeep in neutral. He did not stop to help her, even though she's pregnant.
She's okay. She did suffer a broken leg, and I believe she's out of the hospital now. But very irresponsible of this driver to hit this individual, take off, leave the scene, didn't do the right thing, and we're looking for him.
As you can see in the photo here, the man has glasses, a goatee, and short hair. If you recognize him, you're asked to call police. Pain at the pump. Gas prices have surged, jumping 10 cents in the last week here in our state. This is the highest they've been so far this year.
Yeah, it has many wondering why, especially after experts projected prices would drop in time for your summer getaway. News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke to AAA to find out more details. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, a viewer reached out to us on Facebook wanting to know why fuel prices jumped so much in such a short period of time. So I called AAA of New Mexico, who says it's all relative.
We did see an increase at pumps all across the land of enchantment over the last week. Gas prices rose on higher crude oil costs. But, you know, the good news in all of this is they still remain significantly less than what we were paying at this time last year.
Now, right now, New Mexico drivers are paying around $2.37 a gallon. That's up 10 cents from last week, but about $1.09 less than this time last year, and about 12 cents less than drivers nationwide. Experts say there are several reasons for the sharp increase in fuel prices. Representatives with AAA say supply built up a lot slower than anticipated. Plus, they say we're seeing instability on a global level due to political conflict and other overseas issues. They also cite planned and unplanned refinery issues. Now, California is paying the most for gas right now, in part due to lingering effects of a refinery explosion back in Torrance in February. They're paying around $3.19 a gallon, so much better than they are. Back to you.
Some great information. Thanks so much, Catherine. Now, earlier this year, as we mentioned, experts project a dip in prices this summer. We'll tell you what they're saying now coming up in our next half hour.
Also happening today, opening statements are expected to begin in the trial of Aurora Theater shooting suspect James Holmes.
Yeah, Holmes is facing 165 counts for a shooting rampage that killed 12 people and wounded 70 more in an Aurora, Colorado theater in 2012. It all played out during a midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises. Now, witnesses say he was dressed in body armor, and some of them thought it was costume for publicity.
It wears on you, and people don't understand that a lot of us have PTSD and all these things that are all caused by the actions of one person.
Now, Holmes is pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. His attorneys say he was dealing with a psychotic episode at the time of the shooting. Prosecutors, though, they argue he was sane and are pushing for the death penalty. The trial is expected to last until August. Also today, witnesses are expected to testify during what's sure to be another emotional day of trial for Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. Defense lawyers are expected to launch a bid to save the 21-year-old convicted killer from the death penalty. He and his brother set off the bombs during the 2013 Boston Marathon. Tsarnaev's relatives, who flew into the U.S. late last week, are expected to stay until they testify later this week. The jury must reach a unanimous decision in order for him to be sentenced to death.
We're staying on top of the latest from Nepal this early hour, where the death toll from the massive earthquake there is on the rise. Right now, more than 3,000 people are reported dead, and crews continue to search for survivors. Many people are now camping outside their homes amid a series of powerful aftershocks. Saturday's magnitude 7.8 quake also triggered an avalanche that swept through the Mount Everest base camp, killing more than a dozen people there, including 3 Americans. Help from around the world is heading into that region right now.
Yeah, and that includes people in New Mexico. They're already working on helping people in the earthquake-ravaged country of Nepal. Some are actually from Nepal. According to the Santa Fe New Mexican, the Tibetan Association of Santa Fe and the community, they're planning an event for Sunday, May 3rd. The Red Cross has already committed to donating $300,000 to the cause. If you want to help too, we put a link on our website, KRQE.com.
Freeway fireball catches afternoon drivers off guard after a tanker explosion. How that whole thing sparked in the first place.
Plus, caught in the quake, the close call of a Taos resident climber caught in the aftermath, and why it could take another New Mexican weeks in Nepal before she makes it home. Also,
Anytime you see something like this, it's not good.
Well, we know that rain soaked the metro right over the weekend. We're going to tell you coming back out here how much we got. And good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning, 6 a.m. I'm Adam Atchison.
good morning, everyone. I'm Crystal Gutierrez. Today is Monday, April 27th. We'll get to those stories in just a moment. But first, we're talking weather this morning.
Yeah, we're going to get right over to Krista Curry. We did get a soaking yesterday, and it was chilly out there, too. She knows what we can expect for today. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I think we actually had some video that we were going to show you from earlier this morning of some of the puddles out there. But as far as what we're looking at this morning, we're still rain and snow across the northeastern plains. And I will show you as far as what we can expect for the later end of this afternoon, maybe a few more showers. So a soggy start to the work week, but it is the top of the hour. We'll start with that allergy report. Juniper and oak up to medium. Mulberry, though, still a huge issue for us, up to high. So headlines, we're talking about preliminary storm reports. Rain not too shabby across most of the metro area, but we are starting to dry out as soon as we hit tomorrow, and temperatures warming up with the 80s back in the 7-day. I'll tell you when, coming up here in about 10 minutes.
All right, Kristen, thank you. We're now going to get to that video. As she mentioned, we're waking up to a much calmer morning in the metro today. It was a wet weekend, though. The rain helped to make it one of the wettest Aprils that we've had in a while now, in about 3 years. But it wasn't enough to keep some residents from shopping in Old Town. Near Central and Atrisco, drivers dealt with wet roads. Ditches and rivers were flowing strongly yesterday. The gray skies were off and on throughout most of the day, hampering most park goers. Meanwhile, in much of the East Mountains, residents there were dealing with snow. This video was sent in by our own Kim Vaez. A late winter for some, a soggy weekend for others. And you've been sending in your pictures of the wet weather across New Mexico. Terzio Lopez snapped a photo of the snow in Cibola in Rio Arriba County. There's so much fog, it's hard to see through the trees there. Tammy Smith also sent us a photo from Bread Springs, New Mexico. That's south of Gallup. The snow that fell there covered the ground and the trees yesterday morning. And snow-covered Chama, too. You can see it falling in this picture. It's a pretty picture.
And don't forget, you send them. Of course, we will share them. Upload your weather pictures on the KRQE News app, or go to KRQEnews.com and click on the Report It. Remember to stay with KRQE News 13 as we continue to track this wet weather all morning long. Don't forget to download the KRQE News app and to check our website to get up-to-the-minute weather coverage as well. Rescuers are racing to find survivors of that devastating earthquake in Nepal. Take a look at the video here. As the death toll there soars even higher this morning. Right now, more than 3,000 people are reported dead. Crews continue to search for survivors. Many residents are now camping outside their homes amid a series of powerful aftershocks. Aid workers are racing to get crucial items like medicine and food to survivors.
Making sure which planes can go in, what is the most important supplies to give it to the people, and then getting it off the airplanes, off the tarmac, into the storehouses, and then off into the field.
Now, Saturday's magnitude 7.8 earthquake also triggered an avalanche that swept through the Mount Everest base camp, killing more than a dozen people there, including 3 Americans. Help from around the world is headed to that region. Of course, we'll continue following the story and bring you the very latest as it does come into our newsroom. And new at 6 this morning, we've learned some New Mexico residents got caught in that quake.
Yeah, that's according to the Taos News, which reported that climber David Hahn was left unharmed while climbing Mount Everest. He says the quake happened shortly after making his way down to camp. Luckily, the group was in a good place and was left unharmed. At least 18 people were killed at base camp, according to the Indian Army. Hahn tells the Taos News they hope to leave by helicopter within the coming days. Turns out he wasn't the only Taos resident to be caught up in the quake and its aftermath. Dr. Del Andre, who works as part of an international team providing free medical care in rural Nepal, was in Pokhara. She says they felt it there, but little damage was done there. Unlike Hahn, it'll be a few weeks before they can leave since the roads have been destroyed. But Dr. Andre says she and others with her will stay longer to help with the relief efforts.
We turn now to this. We're learning much more about what led to charges against an APD officer accused of beating up a homeless man. The allegations were first reported by a cadet who was responding to a call with Officer Cedric Greer, according to a newly released state police report. Now, Greer, fellow APD officer Jerry Roush, and that cadet were called to the Best Choice Motel near Central in Louisiana last month to help a highly intoxicated man. Police say they also found some marijuana on him. State police say Greer and the cadet, they stayed with him while Roush ran to his car. Investigators say when that man looked at the cadet, Greer told him not to and started hitting him in the face and ribs. Greer allegedly asked, "Who's the man?" repeatedly until the man told him, "You're the man." Roush then returned, said he was going live, and then both officers turned their lapel cameras on. According to state police interviews, the man never posed any kind of threat to the officers. Greer is allowed to remain out of custody on a $5,000 bond this morning.
Time now is 6:06. Santa Fe County Sheriff's deputies say they put a stop to scheming by a group of identity thieves. Deputies say Edward Lucio bought a $500 TV using a credit card with a woman's name on it. After catching Lucio, investigators discovered and arrested 4 others involved in the identity theft ring. Deputies say they broke into mailboxes, they took credit cards and checks. Investigators are still looking for more people involved. Developing this morning, Ford is recalling around 400,000 cars because the doors may not latch properly and could open while the cars are in motion. The recall covers certain Ford Fiestas, Ford Fusions, and Lincoln MKZ cars that were made in Mexico. Ford says 2 people suffered sore shoulders from doors bouncing back after they were closed. Dealers will replace all 4 door latches at no cost to the customer.
Turning now to a live look out at Washington, D.C. In the week ahead, the U.S. Supreme Court will tackle gay marriage. Starting tomorrow, the High Court will hear extended arguments on cases from Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee.
Those states had gay marriage bans upheld by a federal appeals court back in November. During arguments, the justices will consider 2 related issues. First, do states have a right to define marriage solely as the union of a man and a woman? If so, do those states have to recognize valid same-sex marriages from elsewhere? The Supreme Court's expected to issue its ruling by the end of June. Developing this morning, the family of Freddie Gray is calling for calm as they prepare to say their final goodbyes today in Baltimore.
Yeah, Gray died in police custody earlier this month after suffering a severe spinal injury. His death has sparked several days of protests demanding justice. Nearly 36 people were arrested after violence broke out during demonstrations on Saturday. The Department of Justice is opening an investigation into his death. Amazing new video this morning. Take a look at this of a tanker fire on an LA freeway. It happened late Sunday afternoon on the 710 in California, and under all those flames, a double tanker completely engulfed in flames. It was a fireball there. According to police, the truck was hauling a 2-tank trailer with 8,800 gallons of gasoline. Only the rear tank overturned, but the driver and passenger were able to get out safely. Authorities aren't sure if the trailer got a flat, causing it to overturn or something like that. California Highway Police is now investigating.
Could you imagine just driving down the road and seeing that?